everyone, back at it again with another video. I just launched my little yellow kayak at another pond on the side of the road. This was actually the same day that I was fishing the bog pond, and I thought I'd pick up and hit another pond just for the heck of it. We've still got cloudy skies, a bunch of wind, but this pond is kind of shaped like an hourglass. It's got a deep hole and a lot of dollar pads and reeds rimming the edge of the pond. So I thought I would fish a BFS Texas rig, and I've got a baby goat on a little hook, 1/0 hook. And I think my very first cast, I caught a fish. Now he's not a giant fish, but it's the middle of the day. I'm not really expecting too much. This is just kind of a fun fishing trip. See what I can do. So that's the way to start a trip, though, is to catch a fish on your first cast. And I can tell it's going to be one of those days where it's a lot of fish, but they're not that big. Just a fun fishing trip in the middle of the day. And I think a lot of people watching this video, they just want to go out and catch a bunch of fish. Well, this is one way to do it. You've got a little bit of deeper water. It's probably 5 or 6 feet by the edge of those dollar pads. And a little micro Texas rig with a 1/16 ounce worm weight, 1/0 hook, baby goat. I put a little crawfish scent on there, but it's not really necessary. These fish are pretty charged up. But some other little plastic like a TRD bugs, that would probably work pretty well too. And there's not too much to it, I'm just casting to little pockets or little points in the pads, giving the baby goat a couple pops, and if there's fish on it, I reel down to them and set the hook, and if there's no fish, I reel it in and make another cast. It's really that simple. The rod I'm fishing is a Shimano Corrado 7.2 medium light BFS rod. And the BFS term gets thrown around a lot. All it means is bait finesse system, and it's a way of throwing lighter baits on bait casting gear instead of throwing them on spinning gear. That's all it really is. But in the world of BFS, this rod is a meat stick. I mean, it's much stiffer than some other BFS rods. And so for this purpose, for fishing a little micro Texas rig, it's perfect. I mean, it's the equivalent of a flipping stick for a regular sized creature bait. And it does a great job at that. What it's not great at is loading up, casting really tiny baits, little micro cranks like that. It just wouldn't work well. It's too crisp and powerful of a rod for that. But for throwing little micro Texas rigs around a little pond like this, clear water, it's just perfect. The reel I'm fishing is a Dark Wolf Ultra Clone. It's called the Micro Monster, made by Kingdom, but I'm guessing they all come out of the same factory. They're all pretty much identical reels. Anyway, for around 50 bucks, it's a decent reel, and I think it's worth around $50. It's definitely not a high-end reel at all, but I'm fishing it just fine. I'm making reasonable casts with the little micro Texas rig. I'm placing baits where I want them to. I wish it had a pound or two more drag. It's not the smoothest reel. It's probably not going to last me, a decade of hard fishing. Probably get a couple years out of it max. But that's what the price point is. It's a $50 reel. It fishes like a $50 reel, but it's functional. I'm able to fish just fine with it. It came with an extra spool too, which I like. Right now I've got 10-pound 832 on it. That's suffix 832, and a short leader of Yozuri Hybrid Clear. And so for flipping, this is really, really light stuff. But for clear water and a little tiny pond on the side of the road, it's just perfect, especially in the middle of the day. And I can almost guarantee that I'm getting many, many more bites than I would if I was flipping 50 or 65 pound braid at these fish. You know, this is just a little tiny pond on the side of the road. This isn't Lake Okeechobee or I don't know, some other big lake with giant fish in it. I'm sure there's a few big ones in here, but that's not what we're after today. We're just trying to catch a bunch of fish. So little ponds like this on the side of the road are great places to go if you just have a couple hours to fish in the middle of the day and you just want to go and catch a fish. Or maybe you're in a slump, having a bad season, you just can't get anything to bite. I mean, this BFS stuff, for me, is just a game changer. These fish are acting like they've never seen a lure before. They're jumping all over the baits. And it's fun, you know, it's fun for an hour to do a lap around the pond and catch a bunch of little bass, and you can test out new gear. There's a lot of reasons to do this, and this would be a fun kind of a trip for young kids or people just learning how to fish. You know, the worst thing you can do, I think, in trying to teach somebody how to fish, especially somebody that's a little bit younger, is take them out to a pond or a river or whatever, or ocean, go fishing for 8 hours and not catch a single fish. That's a good way to turn someone off of fishing, especially someone with a shorter attention span. So little ponds like this can be great resources. They're typically underfished, and the fish are usually pretty aggressive. I mean, if you put something in front of them and it's a reasonable presentation and the line's not too thick, you're probably going to get bit. I mean, odds are you're going to catch some fish. And so for a lot of people that just want to go out and catch a bunch of fish in the middle of the day and maybe share that experience with somebody in their family and just have a good time, this is a great way to do it. So I was working my way around this pond. It's an hourglass shape, and I was fishing the outer rim, these reeds and dollar pads that kind of line the entire pond. But as I was getting towards the middle of the hourglass, I started running into some lily pads that were offshore, and so I threw a few casts offshore into the lily pads, and there was fish there too. I'm not throwing the bait really into the heart of the thick stuff. I'm mostly trying to fish the outer edges of the pads, and because I don't have enough line strength to rip fish through a field of lily pads. That's not what this gear is capable of. I'd probably break off a few if I tried to do that. So I'm just trying to get on the outer edges of weeds, the outer edges of lily pads and reeds, and then pull those fish to me before they can get back into the thick stuff. And it seems to be working out okay. Alright, so soon pretty apparent that this little pond is loaded with small bass. I left this next clip in just to show it wasn't just small bass in here. Pickerel are the bane of BFS fishing. And that guy took the feet off my little baby goat. I'm pretty sure that wasn't a bass. They sliced those feet clean off. And so, yeah, I'm going to try to avoid pickerel in this pond. And I'm going to do that by sticking to the outer edges in some deeper water. There's a shallow backwater right at the tippity top of the pond where my kayak is pointed. And so it looks fishy as heck, but it also looks like a great place for pickerel to hang out. So I'm just going to avoid that entire part of the pond. And, you know, that could be a mistake. There could be a big bass in there. I don't know. But I don't really want to get my rig cut off by pickerel again and again and again. So I'm just going to make an executive decision not to fish there and try to catch some bass in this deeper, I don't know if it's really a main lake, but deeper basin. The mechanics of throwing a micro Texas rig are really just about the same as the upsize version. But if you're learning and you just want to practice on a bunch of small fish, little ponds like this are great places to do it, because you get a lot of feedback. You know, you can catch a lot of fish and kind of refine your technique. you want to, usually what I like to do is I wait till I feel the fish pick up the bait, I reel down to them, and then I set up. I don't set to the side, I set up. And you can play around with different techniques, different hook styles, and see what really seems to work for you. And it might be what works for you in a kayak is a little different than in a John boat or something else. And you can play around with different techniques and different baits, different colors, see which ones the fish seem to respond to. That's a real little guy, but he still wanted that baby goat. I left this next clip in just because I thought it was kind of funny. I was fishing this outer edge of some dollar pads, giving the baby goat a few hops to see if anybody's home. And then I was reeling in to make another cast. Boom! The little bass ate it as I was reeling it in. Just shows you how charged up some of these fish were. He's not a big fish, but they're all kind of fun. So I kept working my way around the pond, fishing the lee side, fishing the windy side. Seemed like there's fish everywhere, but it was a little harder to fish in the wind. I've only got a 1/16 ounce tungsten worm weight on there, and so it's a little bit harder to fish in the wind. I almost got poked there, I think. That's alright. Every once in a while the fish get even with me. Little guy, still fun. I think I got one more fish here for you. Same general idea. I'm working my way around the lake, casting to the outside edge of some reeds. It was mostly fishing outside edge of dollar pads, but sometimes the reeds too. And that was another one that ate the baby goat halfway back to the boat. I was starting to reel the bait back in to make another cast. He almost jumped in the boat with me too. Just a little guy, but they're all fun on BFS gear. So thank you all for watching. I really appreciate it. I think the star of today was the Z-Man baby goat. That was pretty much the only bait I had to fish. I brought a few other lures with me, but yeah, that pretty much got it done, and that was good enough for me. Just like all my other videos, I'll list all the gear in the video description. Rods, reels, line, leader, hooks, weights, lures, colors, all that good stuff. So you can duplicate what I was doing here on this little pond on the side of the road at your own ponds, which are near you, wherever you live in the country. I bet you could do the same kind of thing at a little farm pond, or a bog pond, or just another pond on the side of the road. Doesn't get a lot of pressure. I'll catch you on the next one. See ya!